on surviving two pandemics approximately 1993 to 2026 without contracting the virus. Today is Thursday, 23 July 2026 AD, and here I, Tanis, she, her, hers of Seattle, reflect on surviving two pandemics during the time period approximately 1993 to 2026 without contracting the virus. One, swine flu H1N1 pandemic, January 2009 to 10 August 2010, and two, COVID-19 pandemic, January 30 January 2020 to 5 May 2023. And these are what time dates that I've encountered external to me. So if you've heard something else, they're the numbers that I have encountered. I've talked about each of these before on this channel, so there's a little bit of a channel recap in that sense, and I'll link to some related playlists, including COVID-19 pandemic chronology videos and international travel with medical restrictions and what could go wrong. It's a good playlist for this. Although then there's the case of like a pandemic going like right, which would be like immunity bracelets. Okay. All right, so let's go with this swine flu. So timing of international travel and swine flu pandemic in summer of 2010, including Vancouver Zoo in Canada. So I've talked about that briefly. That was one I was actually, it got incorporated in, I was working in aquatics, and it's something that we did actually take into account in like operations and stuff like that, was how the virus and certain case rates would or could change the operations of the facility or aquatics. Aquatics being like a pool, and I was a lifeguard, swim instructor, that kind of thing about this point in time. And then it impacted, and this is one of those ones, or I'll get back to what the case is. So and then I went to Canada with a friend, and we actually did there were changes when we were like looking at hotels and stuff. We were given like, there was like pandemic stuff when we were looking for our travel stuff, and we ended up we like booked our stuff, and then we went, and it was like very time coincident with the end of the pandemic in August 2010. All right, confirmed cases were something like 500,000, less than 1% of the world population. But if 1.4 billion infection rates were true, if 20% infection rates were true, so there's the like confirmed cases, and then there's the like kind of confirmed but like cases, which was 1.4 billion. So like at 20% infection rates for the global population, then we might expect rapid vaccine development with the next pandemic, which happened, per my perspective, with the COVID-19 pandemic, with onset about 11 years later, like after the onset of one kind of thing, because it onsetted in January 2009, the swine flu pandemic. Since symptoms were flu/flu-like, in between research on flu shots may have helped in rapid vaccine development for COVID-19 stuff. Per my perspective, it's something I stayed into between the pandemics. Yes, and then was there something else? Oh, this is one where I knew of a number of people who thought they might have got it, but they didn't have testing. Also wasn't readily available like it was with the COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic is like the swine flu pandemic hit, and they got a bunch of stuff figured out by the time the COVID-19 pandemic came around. All right, so then moving on to the COVID-19 pandemic, my flights for international travel were canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I was going to go to Ireland, and those got canceled. So there. International travel impacted for me anyway, yet again. Confirmed cases were something like 780 million, less than 10% of the world population. And then so those were the confirmed, so like the unconfirmed were like 70% of the global population. So if 70% infection rates were true, then it should also be true that immunity bracelets are forthcoming in the next pandemic. Such a simple proof if the 70% infection rates were true or not. True means immunity bracelets roll out without hiccup because people actually want to get better / don't want to get sick, while not true means more tumultuous pandemics until the medical industry figures it out. Why? Because those of us who didn't get it look at everyone else, everyone who did, and go, what's wrong with you? I don't get it. And that is, I am hoping the medical industry learned about immunity if less than 1/3 of the world population ended up in that category. Perhaps they were even semi-ready by the end to roll out immunity bracelets. Yes, okay, so why would they have worked on this? Working the 30% non-infected here as immune, the natural resources consumed to produce immunity bracelets might be less than the natural resources consumed for ID cards for the 70% infected. If the 70% also correspond to vaccinated or something. Also, less documentation means less places for potential tampering. So if they want to stay a well-oiled machine, right? Like environmental resource, like saving, and then also just the basic streamlined operations. All right, as of when this video was filmed on Thursday, 23 July 2026, I had not contracted either virus, and I had not received an immunization/vaccine for either. Maybe nature wants my blood pressure so bad that it goes, the only way I know how to squeeze you for it is to squeeze your human offspring. So then one batch at a time for me in reproducing, especially if there were a child high impact pandemic, 70% died or something. Nature goes, it is to squeeze you for your blood pressure. Is that a take on pandemics? Can I come up with something not a pandemic that might feel like a pandemic? How about a huge uptick in the number of cases of antisocial disorder or something like that? All right. Increase in number of cases of something like perhaps more chronic. I don't know. All right. Can I come up with another pandemic idea in addition to the STD ideas I covered in my previous immunity bracelets video? Sure. A set of immunizations, vaccines, administered over a certain time range had effectiveness worn/wear off for some reason. An analogy would be like, for some reason, the vaccine became the watered-down vodka in the film Ocean's 8. Like, some people can't hold their liquor, some people can't hold their immunization. This is consistent with some people needing boosters for COVID-19. And it kind of starts to wear off. So like, that'd be like, like, watch me be adopted or something. And like, had I lived with my birth family, blood family, you know, I got a vaccine over here, and they go, oh, from this date range, it turns out it's worn off a little bit, and it's like my polio vaccine or something like that. And I would have gotten a vaccine wherever if I had been living with my birth/blood family, and it wouldn't have, I wouldn't have gotten that same vaccine. Or vaccine period, you know, or I don't know, it would depend on their parenting style part, right? But I would have been just fine. And then because I was adopted, I'm actually like long-term health, you know, like up in the air, and I'd be like, really? That would be something, wouldn't it? So that's on surviving 2 pandemics, approximately 1993 to 2006. Nope. 1993 to 2026, year I'm filming this video, without contracting the virus.